Welcome, everybody. My name is Derek Whitaker. It's wonderful to have you and see you here in the broadcast for Supernatural Finance. Will you reach your full potential? We've got people joining us all over the world, which is always very exciting. I'd love if you could put in the chat wherever you might be looking, on Zoom or on YouTube or on Facebook, and let us know where you're tuning in from. That would be fantastic. Would love to know that. So I am from Perth, Australia. That's where we're broadcasting now. If you want to put it in the chat, where are you based? That would be awesome. As we broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube tonight. We've got, who we got here? We've got Perth, Adelaide, fantastic. Do we have anyone from the Philippines? And where in the Philippines tonight? Welcome to our Perth folk. Adelaide. Yeah, Philippines, Harold's from the Philippines, got on your Harold. Excellent. Wherever you're tuning in from tonight, welcome. It's so great to have you here. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at will you reach your full potential? And before we get into it tonight, I want to just kind of give you a little bit of explanation of who we are and what we are for those of you who've never tuned in before. It's good to see some familiar faces. Some of you as we've visited before, others we've know. And what we want to do is basically just let you know a little bit about us. We are basically a group that, how Supernatural Finance started was, I've done a lot of financial education over the years. I originally had a media background, and then I went into the finance industry, spent a number of years there, went out on my own business, and really didn't see breakthroughs in my business until I started applying these supernatural laws that basically propelled my business into places that I could never ever thought or imagine, which is really, really exciting. And so I began to explore teaching these to my clients and also people like yourself who might be interested in this sort of stuff. And this is kind of how it came about. And in that process, we began to see miracles take place. Some of my clients were getting things like their debt forgiven from the bank. One of my clients is $50,000, this couple in debt, and the bank, they put all these applications in and they worked through this process of giving to their church. And incredibly, their debt was just wiped out. The bank called them and said, yep, we forgive you of that. I personally have had incredible financial breakthroughs where I've had money appear in savings accounts that I haven't touched for two and a half years, suddenly appear there, and we're talking thousands of dollars. I've seen time and time again, funds come in, you're not sure where they're going to come from, and then just out of left field, and you know it's not you, it's God that steps in. And just as we have that law of gravity, we explore that, that it takes the law of lift to break the law of gravity. And just as we do that, we also explore what are the financial laws that occur. And we've also had incredible healings as well. One of the guys that works very close with us in our leadership is Gab. He went through, as we heard in our previous broadcast, Bill Pawsey. We got on there and we decreed healing over him in Jesus' name. We saw God just heal his face right there on Zoom. It was, he was so bad, they had to tape his eye shut when he would sleep, so it wouldn't dry out overnight and get dust in it. And of course, his mouth was very shifted down. So we saw this as we decreed healing of him, that began to shift. And 3 weeks later, he was absolutely, completely healed. He looked younger than I'd ever seen him before. And, God had healed him. And his therapist had said, I've never, ever seen anybody recover from this in the time frame that you have. So we've seen that. We were holding private, before COVID, we were holding meetings in Florida and seeing people get healed of joints and this sort of stuff, and communities being affected by debt cancellation. So this is when we knew we were onto something. And then, of course, COVID hit, and that opened us up us up just outside of Perth. Gab said to me, "Hey, can we do this with in our country?" I said, "Absolutely." So people from the Philippines were joining us. We had opened it up to, of course, people in other parts of Australia. So it's very, very exciting. We're delighted that you're here tonight. And we do these public meetings regularly, and then we also do courses. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the course later on. Somebody has said to me that they'd love, 3.6 million would fix things for them. That would be great, amazing. And God can do it. God can do 3.6 million. Nothing is too difficult for him. One of our lines of supernatural finances, all things are possible. And that is related to Mary's response to Jesus when she's a virgin and the angel says, "You're going to have a baby." She says, "How's that going to happen?" And the Holy Spirit will come upon you. All things are possible. So with that tonight, we're going to be diving into our presentation. We're going to be looking at a number of spiritual laws. And tonight we're going to be looking at this. Now, you are very, very much so important and so important to God that he has a life and destiny for you. But it's interesting, will you reach your full potential? Will you actually get there? I have worked with young people over the years and that sort of stuff and wondered sometimes, have they reached their full potential? And this is an exciting part of what we're doing. And what we're doing here is, as I mentioned, we want to see you live a life of purpose through faith by having a relationship with God. That's what we seek to see you come into with supernatural finance. And the other objective is to operate in the supernatural, not in the constraints of the normalized systems of this world. And for those who are doing the course, they've really seen some of the systems, we call it a Babylonian system of finance, have seen those constraints. And, if you're not familiar with that, well, there's a pretty good, very good, reason to believe that you're stuck in that system because you're not aware of that. Because Babylon means mystery. So we reveal all of that, and we'll also show you tonight how you can also be involved in this course at the end. We'd love to be working with you, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Our leadership have applied these spiritual laws to their lives, which has allowed them to see supernatural results, not only in finance, but as I mentioned earlier, in physical, relational healings, which affected their families and communities. We've seen one of our, the wives of one of our leadership, Deshaun, his wife, Jay, had some severe shoulder pain. And recently God just completely healed her right there on the spot. We decreed healing over her and bang, instant healing. She was completely well. And I always get delighted by that. Hey, heads up, before we get into this, our next big event, reserve this date, is on 8th of July, 7 p.m. Australian Western Standard Time. Your destiny is bigger than you could ever imagine. We're going to be looking at that on that night. Your destiny is bigger than you could ever imagine. And so what happens here is God works on you. And then, of course, you get an assignment with God. And when you're in assignment with God, then he provides the resources for that assignment. The thing is, the bigger the assignment, the more resources it requires. And that's the cool thing that we teach about in supernaturalfinance.com. Have a look at that. You can join our VIP list if you're not already. If you didn't get this email in terms of sent to you directly, be sure to go to that. You can sign up for the next event. We can update you with all the links that you can do there. And always please invite a friend. We'd love to, the more the merrier. We enjoy having you on board. I want to talk tonight about how many people are living a life of what we call toil. And we see this in the Bible. We look at all these spiritual laws through biblical principles. And Proverbs 10:22 from the New International Version says, "The blessing of the Lord brings wealth." Let me just stop there for a moment. Who brings wealth to you? Well, so many in the world think that it's them that brings wealth to themselves, that they're a self-made man or self-made woman. And this really clearly shows it's the law of the blessing. If you look at the Hebrew word, because of course Proverbs was written originally in Hebrew, it's the word barak. I'm not going to go into the spiritual law of barak tonight. That's another one that we'll have to deal with another time. But the blessing of the Lord, it brings wealth, okay? So this takes the pressure off you in terms of building wealth. It's the blessing of the Lord. And so when you have the favor of God upon your life, When you're in relationship with him, you can see these things play out. And it does that without painful toil for it. Now, look, I'm all for hard work, and putting in a good effort. But there's a difference between hard work and toil. Toil is when you are just like a slave to it. You're a slave to the machine. You're a slave to your job. You're a slave to, you're working 16 hours a day. I've been there. I've been in the situation where I'm trying to, having to try to get a business off the ground, trying to attract clients who really don't care about me and don't really want to know about me, and having to work a part-time job as well at the same time to pay the bills and put food on the table. I've been there, putting that in every spare moment, just having to structure the day so carefully, and been toiling. But it wasn't until I broke into these spiritual laws, started studying them and understanding how the supernatural happened, that things shifted and turned around and changed. Whereas now I'm in a situation where clients chase me down. I don't even look for them. I've had situations where they are ringing me, begging me, can we start your courses in the next 2 weeks, please? Here is the money up front. Whereas before, I'd have to ring and touch base with people 4 or 5 times before they come on board. And, that is the blessing of the Lord. That is not me. That's his favor. And so we look at that, but many are living in that toil where it goes back to the Garden of Eden, where it talks about, by the sweat of your brow, you shall work. And it talks about how the weeds will come up in the field and you will toil. And that's part of what we call the curse. But the blessing, the complete opposite of that, is what we're the original design of what we were to live in. Now, the cliche, life is not a dress rehearsal, you only get one chance. Have any of you heard that? Just put in the chat box, yep, heard that one. Has anybody heard that cliche? You hear it a lot in the seminar industry. Life is not a dress rehearsal, you only get one chance. Yep, I'm getting responses on that. Yeah. And to some extent, it's true that what we do in this life is critical. It's absolutely important. Yep, heard that. Yep, great. Yep, thank you. And it is critical. But what I've noticed is that it has put a pressure on people to live in that hustle, live in that toil state where you're working 16 hours, where people are bragging that they get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to start work, where they're, the highly motivated, the A-type personalities and all that sort of stuff. You can only do that toil for so long until something's going to give, and usually it's someone's health. I've seen a lot of seminar advocates of that hustle and hard work ethic actually have health issues later on, serious health issues. And I remember when I was working in that, and then God said to me, now I want you to rest. And he took me on this journey of teaching me what rest was. And not a few months later, I got very, very sick. It was like my body finally caught up with me after years of that hustle, where I was in bed for 10 whole days. I could not get out of bed. I was so sick, so run down. It took three rounds of antibiotics to try to get through it. And the doctor said I was getting close to being admitted to hospital. That's how sick and close I became. So I'm glad I listened to God when he said, I want you to stop and rest now, because he was protecting me. But this is where this culture's come from. And I think with lockdowns that have become an expected norm, many are asking, why am I working so hard? What is it all for? They finally get a chance to get off the merry-go-round and have some think time. Because toil prevents you from thinking. You just do. You're just on that little merry-go-round. You just keep going like the hamster on the wheel, spinning round and round and round. And what is it for? And a lot of people go, you know what? I'm trying to provide for my families, and I'm trying to be with them so I can have extra time with them and all that. But what they're doing is working so hard, they never get that. They're sacrificing their families to try to provide for them. And so many have worked through that. What are you really meant to be doing with your life? That is a big question that comes up when we finally get a chance to catch a breather and say, what am I really supposed to be doing? And, this is one that has perplexed me at times. I've questioned it myself. What am I really meant to be doing? But it really is a question that I came up with when I was working in high-end law, accounting, and financial planning firms, and hearing so many people complain to me about their job. They hated what they were doing. They were giving 40 hours of their week away, plus to do something they hated with their lives. Now that's a big sacrifice. And often the families would suffer from that. You know, the spouses would suffer from that. The dog, the cat, when they come home, kick the cat, frustrated, etc. You know, if you're unhappy with what you do, it plays a big toll. And I found that, you know, I did some research on it, and the Australian Institute of Management in 2016 had discovered that 80% of Australians were looking for something better. So in other words, that only 4 out of 5 of them were unhappy, and only 1/5 of the workforce was actually happy with what they were doing and satisfied. So that's incredible when you look at those kind of stats. There's a wonderful story in the Bible called, and it's about Gideon. And if you're not familiar with Gideon, Gideon is a guy who has come into a place where this enemy called the Midianites were camped against Israel. And the Bible describes them as they were just thick. It was incredibly oppressive for the children of Israel. And you can read it in the preceding verses of Judges chapter 6, in verse 1 to 11. It describes the oppression that they're under. And it's interesting because so many of our lives people are under oppression. And God never designed for you to live under oppression. He designed you to live in freedom. The irony about the kingdom of God is that he says, surrender your life to me, and then you'll find freedom. Whereas the world teaches, you know, rebel against everything and you'll be free. And it couldn't be more opposite. And this is an interesting one where we pick the story up from verse 11. And it says, the angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. So the Midianites were stealing their food, basically. They were doing that. Now, what's wrong with that verse right there? Can anybody pick it up? If you know it, put it in the chat. What is wrong with that first verse? I'll give you a moment to look at it. The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Ophrah that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. Can anybody see the error? What's wrong with that line? Anybody got it? We've got someone, okay. Let's see what that says. Yeah, exactly. Why in a winepress? You don't thresh wheat in a winepress. You do that on a threshing floor. For those of you familiar with the agricultural way, they would have to get the chaff separated from the wheat, and you do that on a threshing floor where you basically beat the wheat and crush it. A wine press is designed to press wine, to press grapes, to make wine. And so what he's doing, he's hiding in there. He's hiding in this wine press and threshing a little wheat for his household. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon. So he's scared. He's scared from the enemy. He's in a low place, hiding in this wine press, trying not to be seen by the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, the Lord is with you, mighty warrior. Now, is he acting right now like a mighty warrior? He might be acting like a mighty warrior in the sense that he's worried or anxious, but is he acting like a mighty warrior, a soldier? Not at all. And this is the incredible thing, guys, about this, is that God sees your potential. He doesn't see what you currently are, but he sees you what he's designed you to be. And he wants you to step into all that you were created to be, all that you were meant to be. And that is the incredible thing. Yeah. Wine from wheat, ale. Yeah. God wants you to step in to what it is you're meant to be. And he sees that this guy is brave, but he doesn't act. He's not acting brave. And he says, pardon me, my Lord, Gideon replied, but if the Lord is with us, why has this all happened to us? Look around us. Why are they stealing from us? Why have they got us so oppressed that we can't even put some food together without worrying about it being stolen? Where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us all about when they said, did not the Lord bring us out of Egypt, which is a mighty deliverance? And we teach about this, how this applies to the deliverance from Egypt to our lives in the course that we'll talk about later tonight. But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian, into the enemy. So he's got a problem here. He's saying, I'm looking around him. Folks, how many of us look at our circumstances and go, I'm not operating where I should be. My ancestors have talked about how life was so wonderful, yet my current situation, my circumstances right now are not reflecting what I should be. How many of you would say that that is true in your life? And you don't have to respond to that. But yeah, some of you may want to respond to it. But how many of you would say, you know what? I'm not in the situation or circumstances. They aren't reflecting what I was really made to be. And that's what he's saying. Well, he says, where all his wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt? The Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian. The Lord turned to him. So the angel of the Lord is actually Jesus. And the Lord turned to him and said, go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you? God gives us specific instructions sometimes in our life, and he's not really interested in our opinion. Okay. He sees what we are. He sees our destiny. He's written it, and he says, go and live it now. Go and do it. And he says, pardon me, my Lord, Gideon replied, but how can I save Israel? And he looks at where he's come from. He says, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family. He's looking at his family background. He's saying, I'm the poorest of the poor. I'm the weakest in my whole tribe. And within my family, I am the least. You want me to go and save all of my country? Are you serious? And the Lord answers, he doesn't listen to he says, I'll be with you. He reassures him of his insecurity, of his personal issues. And he says, I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive. Gideon replied, if now I've found favor in your sights, give me a sign that it is really you talking to me. And God is so gracious to Gideon because he gives him signs after signs and reassures him about his assignment that God has called him to do. God knows your frame. He knows if you're scared. He knows if you feel weak. He knows of your shortcomings. But he says he often uses our weaknesses, because when he uses our weaknesses, we can't rely on our own strength or our ability to do something. We have to rely on him to come through for us. And that is one of the real laws of supernatural, is that you are reliant on God. So in terms of your finances, I don't know what you're going through, but there may be a situation you go, I can't pay these bills. I can't keep this up for my family. I am struggling to put food on the table. I can't do it. And God's saying to you tonight, he's saying, look, let it go and rely on me. Rely on me to do it. Gideon goes on, he calls out all these men. He gets about, I think it's 16,000 people responding to go to war. God says that's too many. They whittle it down to 300 men to go conquer this vast, vast army of Midianites. And eventually they do that. And you can read the story in your Bible. You can read it online these days. Just go to a website called Bible Gateway and you can read it there, Judges 6. And it's fantastic, 6, 7, and 8. And he delivers them, his whole nation, from the Midianites. It's an incredible story. And my point is this: if God looks at what you're about to become, what you're really meant to be doing, the design that he's put upon your life, and he says to you, look, rely on me. I've got a destiny for you. Here's a really important principle. God sees you differently than how you see yourself. Okay? He sees you very differently. He says in Psalm 139:16, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days adorned for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. So while you're in your mother's womb, God is writing your story. And here's the incredible thing about that. You have to live out that story. You can't change the narrative, okay? And you were designed and you were created in those moments while you're forming in your mother's womb for this time, for this period in history. You are destined to live your purpose. You are created for a purpose. You are just destined for greatness in God. And this is the thing, you cannot argue against that narrative. The more you fight it, the more you argue against that narrative, the harder life becomes. Believe me, I've tried. I've kicked against it. I've tried. And then you got to live out what God has designed you to do. And he reveals that to you as you build relationship with him, as you have a personal relationship with him. He reveals that. I love this, this part here where it says that the design of God's purpose succeeds in the end to bring you to your destiny. This is so important. Proverbs 19:21. It says, a person may have many ideas concerning God's plan for his life, but only the designs of God's purpose will succeed in the end. That's powerful, all right? You may have all these amazing ideas, you may have all these amazing plans, but in the end, God's design, his purpose will succeed. And you know what? He says, the plans I have for you are good, not evil, to give you a future and a hope. He's got good things for you. He's a good, good God. And when you get to know him, when you build that personal relationship with him, you discover how good he is. Another way of putting it is this, later on, Proverbs 20:24, it is the Lord who directs your life. For each step you take is ordained by God to bring you closer to your destiny. So much of your life then remains a mystery. You may not understand it. You may not understand why certain things have happened to you, why things are happening to you right now, what situation you're going through. It remains a mystery. But you can be reassured that if God is Lord of your life, he is directing your life. Every step you take is ordained by him. It's bringing you closer to who you should be and where you should be, which is really, really exciting. You know, part of the thing is that it can be very difficult, but the process is you're becoming more and more godlike. If you have made him Lord of your life. And Bible tells us that once you do that, it's Christ that lives in you, the hope of glory, which means that you're living as Christ can. Now, did Jesus do miracles? Absolutely. Does he expect you to do them? Absolutely. And so when you become more Christ-like, when you start to build that into your life, it's incredible what can unfold for you. Here's another nugget. God prepares your future and protects you from your past. Wow, that's huge. So not only has he got your future, but check this out. He protects you from your past. Look at this, Psalm 139, verse 5. You've gone into my future to prepare the way. So he's got that. He's preparing the way that you're going to go. And in kindness, you follow behind me. So he's your back. He's got your back. So he's in front of you and he's got your back as well as you walk through life. To spare me from the harm of my past, you have laid your hand on me. God wants to protect you from your past. Now, if you look at this, what it's saying in the original language there, or you hem me in, literally means to besiege me before and behind. The implication is that God protects the psalmist from what may come in the future and what has happened in the past. So you may have blown it in the past. You have made mistakes. You may have not always followed God and his ways and done the wrong things. And when you ask forgiveness from God, he forgets it. So one thing you cannot remember is your sin when you seek his forgiveness, which is extraordinary when you think about it. And yet there can be wounds from your past that he wants to spare you from, the harm that was caused, something said against you, something that was done to you, something that was outside your power, something that that you were not in control of, that was occurred to you as a child or growing up or as an adult. There are things that God can do and heal you in that process so that it doesn't inhibit you from your future. Because if we don't deal with that healing, that can influence and sabotage what we're meant to be walking into. So what God does is he prepares not only your future, but he spares you from the harm of your past. What an incredible, powerful promise that he does, that he's caring enough to say, you know what? I've got your back. I've got the pain and that was inflicted on you. I can spare you from that harm, which is really, really incredible. I've seen people who've had terrible things happen to them in their lives in the past, and God heal them and actually use that in their life. I have a really close friend of mine who basically was in a situation as a young person who was taken advantage of, and it was ancestral in her family. And God has used that. She now helps so many other people who've gone through similar situations through that healing process. That's been her whole career as a sexologist, helping those individuals healing from that past. So God can turn, he's taken that harm from her where she can now, their future is prepared for her to help others. He can turn what we call beauty from ashes into beauty, joy uh, for the oil of mourning. So when we grieve, he can give us joy. It's such a beautiful promise there. Psalm 37:23, the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his ways. Put another way, the same verse in a different version, when Yahweh delights in how you live your life, he establishes your every step. When people, before people had cars and buses and automobiles, they walked everywhere, right? Well, their footing, you could lose your footing on hills and mountains. They didn't have smooth roads and pathways like we do in many of our cities. And God establishes your every step so that you don't fall, so you don't stumble. You can have a stable foundation to operate from. It's an incredible promise there. This means that if you are living in right standing with God, you can walk with complete assurance that, one, you aren't going to make a wrong step, okay? You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry that you're going to miss it, that you're going to miss it for your life. You will reach your full potential. You have no idea what it is. God, it's a mystery to us. God can take you above and beyond all that you could ask or think. And he's certainly done that with me. And then you can't lose. This is a revelation, an understanding that he's given me recently. When you serve God, you can't lose. You cannot lose. It's all good. And, you know, for me as a professional, you know, I do trading the stock markets, and that takes on a whole new light, because we look at losses in trading and protecting and risk and all that sort of stuff. But when you walk in this understanding, you can't lose, man, you go into it with far more confidence and understanding. It's going to work out. It's going to be great. You're going to profit. And it's certainly, I've applied that understanding, that new understanding into a lot of what I'm doing. And it's given me such confidence to just make these decisions. Just do it. You're going to be fine. Just do it. Have you ever wondered, though, if you've ever missed it with your life? Have you ever wondered that? Am I the only person who has wondered that? If you've wondered that, would you say yes? Yeah, confidence but not cocky. That's right. Yep. Somebody said that message. That's great. But help me out here. Has anybody ever wondered if you've missed it with your life? That either you missed an investment opportunity, you missed it with a career, maybe you didn't feel like you missed it in a relationship. Yep, good. I'm not the only one. Yep, lots of people here. You've wondered if you've missed it. You know, I certainly experienced that. You know, I had a career in my 20s and early 30s in media and radio. And then it was time to move on in my life. I was like, what am I going to do in my life now? Because it was just so different. You know, it's a very specialized field. It was like, where do you go from here? What can you do? What do you do? And I got into the finance industry, you know, and helping people, advising people on asset protection and tax minimization. And I'd often wondered, what am I doing here? Why am I here? What am I here for? Then later I branched out in my own business, and that is hard. That was hard, because there are times like, what am I doing? Teaching options trading. It would be easier just to sell coffee. You know, you wouldn't have to convince people so hard that they need this. Why am I doing this? Yep, somebody said to me, so far I've always been a square peg in a round hole. Tony says that, yeah. I know the feeling, you know. And, you know, there was this poem by Robert Frost. Those of you who like poetry, two roads diverged in a wood, and I wondered whether the other led. And he concludes in that, I chose the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And that has kind of been a story of my life, in that, you know, I've always gone a different path and wondered why it's so different. Abel says selling coffee is hard. Yeah, Abel, he's well qualified to know. He does that. I used to think it would be a lot easier than trying to sell trading courses, but there you go. You get ideas that something is easier than what you're doing, and yeah, it can be difficult. So yeah, there's a lot of competition in that market. So I came to that assurance that when I let go, I got to a situation where I was so up to my debt in my 40s, and I really had muffed it up, had lost everything. Had to sell our house, lost everything. I was a broken man. And I said to God, look, I've gone off here in some areas, trying to do my own thing, and I'm sorry, I've blown it. can you fix me? Can you still use me? What is it that you want me to do, God, with my life? I really kind of resurrendered it and said, I've blown it. I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do anymore. And God took me through a process of learning to just be in his presence. Somebody described it to me as living under the smile of God, learning to sit under the smile of God. In other words, not worrying, not being this treadmill of racing around trying to do that, but just being. And God healed me in those times and sessions. I would just play worship music, music that glorified God. And this is like 5 a.m. I'm listening to this stuff, and I would just cry. I'd be bawling. And God's presence, his manifest presence, would just come into the room, and I'd be just broken. And he'd start healing me and reassuring me and showing me stuff. Then he started showing me how I had this situation where I was just questioning, why is the supernatural not working in the church right now? Why aren't we seeing it operate? What's going on? And I went into these studies of history where it happened in the past and what key elements were there. Then I started looking at the scriptures and in faith, and hearing a lot of preachers on YouTube talk about faith and what it took. And this started changing my life. And I started applying these spiritual laws to what I learned. And I began to become a different person. And discovered I needed to become the person I was hanging out the most with, which was Jesus. And that's what happens, folks, when you give your life to him, is that you become like him. He enters into you, your spirit connects to his spirit, and your soul is affected by that, which is your mind and your emotions and your will, your heart. And then the body starts changing after that houses all of that, your soul and your spirit, and it follows. So having wondered if you missed it with your life, I'm glad I'm not the only one. The wonderful assurance is this, that in that process, there's a story of a guy called Joseph. Joseph went through extraordinary pain. He was a dreamer in his young years. He had this gift of interpreting dreams, and he sees that his brothers will bow down before him one day, but they sell him as a slave, and he ends up as a slave in Egypt. He starts getting ahead, working for his master. And then the master's wife takes a liking to him, tries to seduce him. He, being a man of integrity, refuses her advances. And basically, she accuses him of rape, and he ends up in jail, prison. Never did anything wrong, sold by his brothers, gone through the situation. And in that process, he's in there, in the jail, and he then interprets other dreams for the Pharaoh's cupbearer who tests the food before Pharaoh eats to see if he's being poisoned in that, and also a baker. And he interprets the dreams. The baker, you're going to die in 3 days, and the cupbearer, you're going to be released and be at Pharaoh's side. And he says, remember me when you're by Pharaoh's side. Time goes by, the cupbearer forgets him, and then one night Pharaoh has a dream, and then the cupbearer remembers, hang on, there's this guy who interprets dreams, and they summon Joseph out of the prison. And this guy has wisdom, interprets Pharaoh's dream through what God reveals to him. And then he is then the second in command of the empire of the world. And he saves the world from starvation when it hits famine 7 years later, after an abundant crop. For 7 years, they save that crop in abundance and store up, because he has the wisdom of God and the foresight to know that the world is going to go into an extreme famine. And in that process, he collects the wealth of the world for that empire as people sell everything they have just to stay alive. So he's very financially sharp. But here's what it says about him. Why did it take so long? He says his feet being Joseph's, they hurt with shackles. In other words, the chains that held his feet. He was put in chains of iron until the time that his word of prophecy regarding his brothers came true. The word of the Lord tested and refined him. The king sent and released him, the ruler of the peoples of Egypt, and set him free. That thing there, the word of the Lord tested and refined him. He had a dream. God had spoken to him, but it tested him, man. And that process refined him so that he is savvy, he is sharp, but he is not full of his own ego. He is doing it in the accordance to God's way of doing things for his life. And to have that much wealth and that much power and that responsibility, if your heart is not right, can ruin you. That amount of responsibility and wealth that he was in charge of, he could have used it for himself and his own pleasures. But instead, God allows him to use those skills to save the world from starvation. And that's the thing with your assignment. If it's a big assignment, God takes people through that testing and refinement so that they will not be ruined by that gift and ruined by that assignment. He uses it to basically make him more like himself. And that's what happens to Joseph. So my friend, if your situation, circumstances are around you, you're going, why am I not prospering? Why am I not getting ahead, so to think? Often God will take us through that process of refinement and testing to see what is in our heart so that we know what's in our heart and that it won't rule us, that we'll actually be released from those things. And he changes us and molds us into his likeness in that process. And that's so critical in terms of any financial breakthrough that you might be seeking or wanting, is to know that God is the one who is the source. He is the source of all your financial abundance, all of your financial prosperity. He is the source. He doesn't want you to think, like he warns the children of Israel, don't boast and brag that you've done it. It was by your hand, but you have to remember it is the Lord your God that brings you into that inheritance. And that's what happens to Joseph here through that process. In Proverbs 16:20, one skilled in business discovers prosperity. But get this, the one who trusts in God is blessed beyond belief. Proverbs 16:21, skilled in business discovers prosperity. But hey, you do it by trusting God. He's going to bless you beyond what you could ever imagine or think. And, I've had miracles happen. Even this week, I had a check in the mail that I was not expecting, of 4 figures. I'm like, wow, was not expecting that. Just God, just supplying. And when he's number one and you totally trust in him, it's incredible how he always provides for you. To reach your full potential, you must be surrendered to your creator. You've got to have a relationship with God. He longs to have a relationship with you. I've seen many people build up ministry empires, all that sort of stuff, and it be full of them, and God bring it down just so that he can restore a relationship with that individual. Romans 10:9 is the key to how you can have a relationship with your creator if you've never done this before. It says simply that if you confess with your mouth, so you speak it aloud, that the Lord Jesus, and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead, you will be saved. It really is that simple. It's saying, Lord, I believe in you. I confess that you're Lord Jesus, that you were raised from the dead. I want you to be Lord of my life. Forgive me of my sin. You'll be saved. And it's as simple as what I have said right there and then, just saying that aloud, confessing it to the Lord. In fact, why don't we do that right now? If those of you who want to do that, you can just repeat this after me. All right? Lord Jesus, I want you to be Lord of my life. I confess you as my Lord, and I surrender my life to you. Not my way, but yours. Be my Lord, be my God. I believe that you raised Jesus from the dead. I accept you have forgiven me of my sin, and I receive it as a free gift. If you said that for the first time tonight, why don't you private message me? All right. And just say, yep, I said that tonight. I said that tonight. You don't have to tell everyone. You just put a private message there and let me know, yep, that's the one for me tonight. I'd love to see that. Why don't you do that right now? If you've done that, we'll just say, yep, fantastic. Excellent. Well done. Congratulations. Anyone else? Has anyone else done that? The angels rejoice when someone does that. Is there anyone else who's done that? Just between you and I, private message on the chat, or you can do that on Facebook and private message. Yep. Or you can do it on YouTube. I've done that. I've said that. Congratulations. That is awesome. Well, this is where there is also tonight, I had a sense when preparing for this tonight, there are people tonight who need protection from the hurts of the past and reassurance that God has got your future. You don't have to worry about your future. Psalm 139:5 will bring you back to that scripture. You've gone into my future to prepare the way for you. And in kindness, you follow behind me. He's got your back. To spare me from the harm of my past, you have laid your hand on me. God is dealing with some of you tonight in relation to your past. And he wants you to know that he has such extreme kindness for you. Where cruelty was done and dished out to you, God is saying, I'm so kind. I can heal you of your hurt. I can heal you of your past. I've got you. And my friend, I've got your future as well. I've prepared it for you. Who needs to receive that tonight? Just saying, yep, that's for me. That's for me. Private message me saying, yes, I receive that kindness tonight. Who says, yes, that's for me? I'll give you a moment to respond. You can do that on Facebook in the private message. If you're here on the Zoom meeting, you can do this. Just private message me, or on YouTube, you can do that as well. You say, yep, I receive that kindness. I receive that kindness. Yep, I acknowledge that person who's done that. Fantastic. Yep. Anyone else? I receive that. That's for me. Just a direct private message. Nobody else will know except you and I tonight. Anyone else? Fantastic. Healing your past, healing you from that. It's got your future. So good. So good. Well, it's been a great night. I've enjoyed it. I want to now just hand it over to a gentleman in our leadership, Daryl Cockroft, he's designed this course, 4 Steps to Financial Breakthrough. I've worked on it with him and I'm so excited. We've got some students who are doing that either directly, they join us live, or they watch the recordings of it. And Daryl, I want to hand it over to you right now. You'd come on screen and just explain to us a little bit, and then I'll go through why you should join the 4 Steps of Financial Breakthrough course. But maybe tell us a little bit why you were telling me we've got to do this course, and what what the benefits are of joining this. Would you, folks? Here's Daryl.
Thanks, Derek. Can you stop sharing?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I can put mine up. Right, good evening, everybody. And thank you, Derek, for covering this topic so well on purpose. Let me just get the slideshow going. Okay, so just a quick 2 slides on the course. So Derek has he's covered the topic very well, and there was a slide up as well with the purpose of, or the vision of supernatural finance. I'll just recap quickly. The first thing is, step 1 is to live a life of purpose through faith by having a relationship with God. And then secondly, to operate in the supernatural and not in the constraints of the normalized systems of this world. So why do we do what we're doing, meet tonight and present the course? The reason why we're doing it, and we're not a church in any way, we're just an organization really to help people. And the reason why we're doing it, because if you look at the material Derek shared on purpose, and I had to ask a question: who of you understands your purpose in life, what you were created for, and as Derek said, that the book that God has written for us, written down for our purpose in this life, who of us understands what our purpose is? I know that I spent many years really confused about what my purpose was in life. And this is very common. Some 90%, 95% of people, when asked this question, will not be able to respond. And it is really a very important question for us to be able to answer. And this is probably the most important question that we have to answer in our life. So, and what is this answer? What is it worth to us? It's worth more than silver and gold, because our purpose does not end in this life. Our purpose continues for eternity. And you're looking at hundreds of millions of years, we'll still be living out our purpose. So our purpose is very important. And this course is designed to help us identify what our purpose is, how to have this relation. Only God knows our purpose, and it is through having a relationship with Him that our purpose will be revealed to us. God is very key. He's keen for us to understand and know what our purpose is, and to walk in our purpose. And the way we walk in our purpose is to live the supernatural life, not constrained by the world systems. So this is what God's heart is for each one of us, is for us to be able to understand and know what His purpose is for us. And this is the reason why we do what we're doing. If you look at the course, and we've presented the course, we almost halfway through these 4 steps. We've broken it up into 4 steps. And if there's anyone that's watching tonight that's been on the course or currently on the course, just put up a comment in the chat box what it means to you for everyone else to see. And so far we've been going for about 8 weeks, 2 months, and the course will probably take us some 6 months to do. What Derek has a plan for us to fast track the next ones by doing 2 sessions a week, and this will be done. Derek will share later how it will be done. So we'll try and bring it down to 3 months, and really 3 months or 6 months, 1 day a night, or 1 night a week, discovering or finding out what your purpose is not much of a sacrifice. So if we look at step one starts with deliverance. So we need to understand what God created us for and what we need to be delivered from. And then from deliverance, the next step is the wilderness. Derek already commented tonight that in this wilderness experience, God changes us. He changes our hearts and gets out of us the junk, and we start establishing ourselves in the things that He wants in our life. We've presented this in 4 steps because really it is presented in terms of a journey. We start in step 1 and we journey our way through from step to step. If you look at what one of the names of Jesus said, I am the way. So that implies, and He said, follow me. And that implies that our life in this earth, in terms of our destiny and purpose, is a journey. We're not going to get there in a day. We're not going to get there in a month. It'll take our whole lives to discover the things God has planned for us. And this is why we're presenting the course as a journey. So step 3 then takes us to taking possession of the land, how to make the promises, the many promises in God's word, and we've heard all about the wonderful promises, how to make them a reality in our lives. And step 4, everything we do at the end of the day is to be able to help other people. So just encourage everyone to join the course if you're not already on the course. Thanks, Derek. I'll hand it back to you. Unless there are any questions.
Well, why don't I do this? I'll show you how you can apply and get in, and then we'll take questions after that. Thank you, Daryl. That's fantastic. So Daryl's put in hours and hours of research on this, and it's been fun comparing notes with him and discovering new things. It's been quite a joy to do. Why you should join the 4 Steps of Financial Breakthrough course? Have you found that you're always just getting by when it comes to your finances? This is because the financial system is designed to prevent you from fulfilling your true life purpose. It keeps you toiling away, disconnected from God, in debt, always earning just enough to get by so you don't disrupt its system. However, your life was meant to be so much more than just getting by. Be prepared to walk with us on this most amazing supernatural journey to discover who you really are, what you were created for, and how to make it a reality in your life. This course, give you a clearer perspective of who God is, how he sees you, discover the wonderful things he's planned for you, how to walk in that way, clarify your purpose in life, and live it to its full potential. Observe how the supernatural operates, see how it grants access to the resources you need to confidently do your life assignment, and find out how to take others on this journey. As Daryl said, it's valued at $2,500. You can do it for free. All right. Why do we do it for free? Because we've been freely given this information by God, so we want to give it to you as well. It's just something we want to do. It's somebody who comes to me and says, you know what, I want to learn how to do options trading, stock options trading. Well, I charge for that. But on this stuff, we are so passionate about this that you come into this stuff that we want you to do it for free. Now, this course is starting next Thursday, so not tomorrow. Not tonight, obviously, but next Thursday, the 20th of May, 6:30 p.m. Australian Western Standard Time. So that's in the evening, not in the morning. Fill out the online form to enroll today. You can go to supernaturalfinance.com and click on Go to Course. In fact, I'll pull up that website now and you can see it. Let's have a look here. The website, where is it? What have I done with it? Oh, yes. So here is, we have the, this is where people can register for the next event, all right? And they'll be on our VIP list. And that's where you can leave your details. If you don't get our emails direct, just go there and put your information there and you'll get the next event that's coming up, which we're going to post in just a moment. Click on Go to Course and you will get here. You'll see this very good looking bloke on the beach and he'll tell you all about the 4 stages of the breakthrough, a financial breakthrough, which Daryl has gone through tonight, those 4 steps. And you can read about it here and just leave your information here and that'll let us know your name, phone, email. And that way we can communicate with you because we're going to have to send you out videos. What I'm doing with this course is I'm fast tracking it. So Daryl's recording it and that's a 6-month process. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm following behind him and I'm going to be doing it in 3 months. I want to be able to do that. So what it will mean, you get 2 hours, you get about 2 videos of between about 45 minutes long a week. So sometimes I go a little bit over to an hour and then we're going to workshop it on the Thursday. So I want you to watch those videos before you come, right? And then we're going to talk about it. We're going to go through the principles and answer any questions you have and discuss this in depth. It's going to be a great interactive experience and would love to have you on board with that. So you'll get through it in about, we estimate around about 3 months, give or take a little bit. So we want to see you with this information as quickly as possible. Okay, let's get back to my slide here, if I can call it up. Bear with me, all the different screens. Here we go. There we go. So yeah, just go to supernaturalfinance.com. This course gives you a clear perspective. I think I've done that. All right, cool. Next public event, as I mentioned, Your Destiny is Bigger Than You Can Ever Imagine. That's happening on the 8th of July, 7 p.m. Australian Western Standard Time. So we do the course earlier in the night on the Thursday. We do these ones at 7 p.m. And as I said, join that VIP list, supernaturalfinance.com. Okay, does anybody have any questions on anything tonight? It could be about the course. It can be about what we presented tonight. Will you reach your full potential? Anybody want to ask any questions? I'll open it up to you. If you want to put it in the chat, you can, or if you want to say, speak it out, you can just say Mike and we can hand over the mic to you. But I'll give you a moment to respond. Or maybe you're one of our students who's doing the course and wanted to let us know what you're getting out of it. So others will have a better feel from you as to what's happening there. Well, Well, don't all speak at once.
There's a comment from Tony. Tony's put up a comment.
Okay. All right. We'll do with Tony and then we'll do with Marcus. So, and then if you have other questions, keep them coming in. So, Daryl, do you want to deal with Tony's comment?
Okay, I'm just looking for it quick. Okay, so Tony's comment is finally coming to an understanding of it, his purpose in life. Purpose has been there in the background for many years and is finally coming to the foreground. Clarity, understanding. So that's a great comment. Thank you, Tony.
That's brilliant, Tony. That's brilliant. Marcus has asked a brilliant question. How do you know if you've reached your full potential at every stage in life? Wow, that's an awesome question. Marcus, the way I can answer it for me, and it may be different from other people, but when you build that relationship with God, he will communicate with you in different ways. Okay. So for me, a lot of it is the word of God, which is the Bible. That's how it happens for me. Whereas for my wife, God often speaks to her through music. I've noticed she writes music, she leads people in worship music and that sort of stuff. So it'll happen for you how God wishes it to happen for you. It'll be different. Okay. And what he did for me was he gave me what I call a life verse. When I was in my early 20s, I'd gone through the recession Australia had to have at that time, done a 3-year degree in the media, and there were very little jobs at that time in media. And so basically, God gave me a verse there that is in the Bible that I have always held on to. So I've applied that verse. It's Joshua 1:8. If you meditate on my commandments day and night, you'll be prosperous and have good success. Be strong and very courageous. And so I have applied that to my media career. I applied that to my consulting career. I've applied that to my own business. And it's very obvious now in this work that we're doing with Supernatural Finance, how that fits, where my role is to facilitate people coming into their purpose. That's what I do. That's what I love. That's what I love doing. I get a buzz out of that. So when I was on the radio, I'd be broadcasting that. What should you really be doing with your life? And here's some ideas and here's some purposes here in relation to consulting, people frustrated with their careers. How can we now do tax planning and asset protection, help you build a business that will actually do that, or investments that'll give you freedom that you're looking for. In my own business, Daryl could tell you, I talk a lot about purpose as it relates to trading, and we've seen amazing life transformations of all things stock options trading. So God can show you creative ways of how that applies to you once you understand what your assignment is and how to apply it in different scenarios. And now, when I'm doing business deals with people as well, I want to understand if this is their life purpose. Is this what they're really meant to be doing with their life, and doing that? So, Marcus, I hope that answers your question. There are times where I've questioned it. Am I really reaching my full potential? And like I said, often what's been happening is it's been a mystery to me, as those scriptures show, but God's been working on me in the background. So I couldn't talk on finance like I do today without going through that process of learning that stuff, doing my apprenticeship in those high-end accounting, law, and financial planning firms, getting diplomas. And I had to understand how the current financial system works. And then I started to get an understanding how God's financial system works. So I'm able to communicate to people about finance and investing on a level that a lot of people would not have if they did not have that expertise. So even when I was confused and not understanding why I was learning this, God knew what he was doing, and he was training me for this time as well at a greater level. But I had to be faithful in those smaller things, and he then adds more. So that's a great question. I hope that answers that for you, Marcus. That's an awesome question. In fact, we could do that all night, that one. That's a brilliant one. Gab says, I hope you don't mind. I have some question about what's happening in Israel and in India. Is this part of a prophecy on the Bible? From Edwin Oncon on Facebook. Okay, so somebody's asked that. Edwin's asked that on Facebook. Daryl, do you want to comment on that one?
Yes. Thank you. Who's the question from, Gab?
Edwin. Gab's simply relaying a question that Edwin has put on Facebook.
Good.
We're broadcasting live on Facebook.
Hi, Edwin. Yeah, great question. Certainly, in terms of what's happening in Israel, is very, very much has been prophesied in the Bible. There are some, just to put it into perspective, there are 150 chapters, mainly the Old Testament prophets and Daniel, and then some chapters with what Jesus mentions about the end times. 150 chapters. To put that into perspective, there's only 88 chapters in the gospel. So there is a lot of information in the Bible on the end times. And Israel is absolutely the key to the end times. Jerusalem is what it's all about. This is on God's heart, Jerusalem, and obviously the Israel and the Jewish nation and the final salvation of the Jews is one of God's main purposes. So very much covered in the Bible, but it will take a lot of time to go into that in more detail.
Very good. Any other questions? I mean, some of the stuff that Daryl's talking about tonight, if you want to learn more about that, you want to get enrolled in that course. How many of you, I'd like to see, how many of you want to get involved in the next course? Who's not doing it yet? Tony's expressed how it's given him huge clarity. That's fantastic. Anybody else who's done that, who wants to get involved? Who would consider it and go, yeah, I should probably do that. I mean, it's free, so everybody can afford this one. We could charge $2,500 for it, but we're doing this free. So, yeah, awesome. Yep. Anybody else? Yep. Awesome. Yep. Cool. Fantastic. Well, please go to that website. Yep. Fantastic. More people are responding. That's awesome, guys. What we'll do, Gab, if you could put the link in the chat box on Facebook and YouTube for us, that'd be awesome. But we'll just put the website here. I'll just type it in there for everybody. Supernatural Finance. Pretty easy to remember. There's the website there. So just click on that and then go to courses, and yeah, you can enroll there, and we'll get you set up for next Thursday, which will be fantastic. Excellent. And look, don't be concerned if you haven't been in school for a while and stuff. It's very user friendly. You just watch some videos and then you rock up and we can talk about it. I don't think you've set any assignments, have you, Daryl, on this one? It's just
no, it's pretty easy. And any questions that you have, we will do our best to answer them.
Yep. So just come as you are. Excellent. Evangeline, have you got a question? Is that a question? You've got a hand up that you want to be involved, or you're asking a question tonight? Tony says, Derek will make you do homework. I'll make Tony do homework. Tony and I go way back. Definitely, Daryl, you're facilitating Tony in the first course there. Definitely give him some homework.
We will think of something.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of homework for Tony, but everybody else, they can cruise through. Want to involve? Thank you. You're welcome. Excellent. Yep. Thank you, Evangeline, for clarifying. All right. Okay, awesome. So enroll now. While that's happening, are there any other questions that people might have? You might have thought of something. Anyone else? Any final questions or comments? Isn't God good? The more I get to know him, he is just so good. How many of you actually spend time with God in terms of prayer time, reading his word every day? How many of you can say that's a habit in my life? What does he pass mark for the final test? My test or God's test, Tony? Which one are you referring to? In terms of financial breakthrough, is that what you're talking about? What's the final thing that gets you into that third stage of promised land, inheriting promised land? Is that what you're asking? Or are you just talking about home plays and work, homework? God knows when we're ready to break through. He knows our heart. He's the one who does the work. He's the one who does the miracle. I cannot do the miracle. There's two parts to this. There is the relationship act. This is how the supernatural operates. There is a relationship that we have with God, and then there's the mechanics of faith. Okay, you have to do it according to God's supernatural laws. You can't do that. Those are laws that are set. And if you try to do it a different way, it's just not going to work, right? So you've got to know what those laws are. And it's through faith, okay? Faith is the belief in things unseen. And we'll teach on that a bit more as you want to learn about faith, go through the course in detail. But we'll also obviously do this in the public meetings as well. But yeah, it's you got to have both working, and God gets the credit for it. God gets the glory for it. And we get the benefits. Some takeaways. Wow, Justine, this is awesome. Right standing with God is the right place and powerful ground so that I could be on my fullest potential, pleasing the God of the universe. Great stuff. God is so huge. He oversees everything and sees the whole picture and made the impossiblest to possible. Why not trust him? That's awesome, Justine. That's so good. It's so good. We're going to be talking a lot about that in the next one too, the big public meeting that we'll have as well, which is really, really exciting. Let me just refresh something here. We're doing this. Cool. Awesome. Excellent. Impossible equals I am possible. Well, Tony, yep, God can do anything through you. When you are marked by God's grace, you can do anything. You can do anything. All right. Daryl, do you have any final words before we wrap up tonight?
Tony, no. Sorry, Derek, no. I think you've covered everything. Just maybe the date and time, the next event.
Okay, cool. So the next online event, let me just call up the PowerPoint here. So the next event, your destiny is bigger than you could ever imagine, right? Who likes that? Who wants to live a life that is just, you have a destiny that's bigger than, you just blow your mind off, right? Blow your socks off. You couldn't even think about, imagine it. Well, that certainly has happened in my life, all right? And I'll talk about that and how that's occurred on that event. That's happening on the 8th of July, which is a Thursday night, 7 p.m. Australian Western Standard Time. Who's going to invite a friend? Who's gotten something out of tonight and say, you know what, I might invite a friend to this. This would actually benefit their life. 8th of July, Thursday, 7 p.m. Australian Western Standard Time. Awesome. Yep, Brian, he's going to invite a friend. Good on you, Brian. Tony says he needs to find a friend first. Don't you have 200 friends on Facebook there? Never has it been easier to invite someone to an event like this. Who else? Anybody else going to invite a friend? We'd love to have them. Get them on our VIP list so they get this information direct and can take advantage of courses of $2,500 for nothing. And they'll thank you for it. Kay, me, good on you, Kay. Kay's been doing an amazing work behind the scenes. Tony's going to invite me. Thank you, Tony. I feel welcome now. It's nice to know I have a friend, Tony. All right. Cool. What we're going to do tonight is also just show you the 4 steps of financial breakthrough. All you got to do is go to this website. It's starting next Thursday. This one will be, I'll be facilitating this, and this will be happening at 6:30 on a Thursday night, Perth time, Australian Western Standard Time. So do the calculation from wherever you're tuning in, but that'll be next Thursday. So you just got to go to the website and click on the go to course button at supernaturalfinance.com and leave your details there, and then we'll get in touch with you with all the details to ensure you are there. Well, fantastic. It's been so much fun for me tonight. I hope you've gotten a lot out of this. Thank you so much. I want to thank my leadership team. These guys make it happen. Daryl, Abel, and Deshaun, And Gab, thank you so much for all the technicalities. Boy, oh boy, Gab's computer broke tonight and today, and he's had to be run around trying to get it fixed because he's our tech guy. So interesting timing of all. Kay, for your management and your team, thank you so much, who make us look good and help us. So really, really appreciate it, all that you are doing. Will I be photo booming Daryl's presentation? Well, we'll see. We'll see. People are sending me private messages now. All right, guys, thank you so much. If you want to see the replay, we will get this out to you, but you got to be on our VIP list for us to send it to you directly. So if you're not on it already, if you're not getting it direct emails from us, go to that website and register, and we'll send you out a recording in the next day or so. And God bless you so much. Remember, live your life purpose, and all things are possible. Good night. God bless.